Hello, hello, test check 1, 2. How are we doing out there? Hello, hello, test check 1, 2. All right, looking good. Switching things over. Boom, here we are, hopefully. All right, hello and welcome to yet another Wednesday feedback stream, or WIP Wednesdays as I like to call it. I'm very excited to hear what kind of songs you guys have been working on and what you got going on. And I'm also experimenting with some different layouts on the stream. So we got the thing over here, which is purple and blue now, and that's where the chat is going to show up. And we'll see if we like this. If we like it, we'll keep it. If not, I will continue to experiment with different kinds of layouts and things like that. So let me know what you think about that in the chat at some point. So once again, as we do in these streams, I'm going to take a listen to the songs that you guys send me, and the way you're going to send me those songs is I'm going to put it into the chat like that, and I'm going to pin it up to the top of chat. So if you have a track that you've been working on and you want to get some feedback on it, click on the link. It's going to take you to the spreadsheet, and in the spreadsheet is where you're going to send me your song, and it's got all the stuff in there, and everything should just be in there and exist in there. So yeah, so what I normally do at the start of each one of these streams is just kind of go through the basic rules, the kind of ideas of what we're going to be doing today. So first off, you ideally, if you were going to be sending me a track, I'm looking primarily for works in progress. So ideally not finished tracks. If you don't have any works in progress, if everything you're working on is just newly complete or whatever, that's totally fine. You can send me whatever you want. But works in progress are preferred because that way you can actually go in and make use of the I get distracted. Make use of the feedback I'm giving you and actually make changes on it. But if you don't have anything, don't worry about it. What's up, Yogi? How you doing? Yeah, now you can see your chat on the thing, which is cool. It's going to take a while for me to get used to chat being in a different place. Other than that, ideally original tracks only, no remixes and things like that, just because I don't want it to do with copyright stuff. And also, if I don't know the track that you're remixing, then it is hard for me to tell what is you and what is somebody else. Other than that, if you are going to be giving, or if you're going to be submitting a track for feedback, it is not required, but it is expected of you to also give other people feedback. And that way it's not just a one-way street of me just talking into the screen, but everybody gets to help each other out and work together to grow as a community, and everybody gets to share their input. Also because I'm not always right on my feedback. If somebody else has different opinions and different feedback, listen to everybody, and that way you get a more well-rounded feedback experience. In terms of like feedback and what counts as feedback, it's good or I liked it doesn't really count as feedback unless you can follow it up with why. Why was it good? Why did you like it? And then that's actually useful information for the person who is submitting their track. Songs are going to be gone through in a are going to be listened to in a first come first serve basis. So I'm just going to kind of start at the top of the spreadsheet, work my way down. Ideally one song at a time. So don't send me like 5 tracks in a row. I'm going to do one at a time for each person. Usually at the end of the streams, there we have enough time to get to multiple tracks from people. So if you're going to be sending me multiple tracks, wait till the end, and then most likely we can get through more than one track. Also, on top of that, if you would like some feedback, but you cannot make it for the live stream, if you can't make it here, you are more than welcome to just click on this exact same link. That'll take you to the spreadsheet. It's also available in the Discord. And then you can just put your link in there anytime during the week. That's totally fine. and then I will review it once again in the order received. Yeah, that's kind of the basics of it. Most of you guys who've been around for a while kind of know what the deal is and kind of know what's going on. Other than that, if you like what's going on here, if you are enjoying the feedback and you're enjoying this stream or other ones, and you want to support the channel, there's a bunch of ways you can do that for free. You can, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, all that kind of stuff. Or you can join the Discord. If you want to support the channel financially, you're more than welcome to do that. All feedback is free, but you can check it out what we're doing over on Patreon. You can also do super chats in here. There's all kinds of ways. Another way you can support the channel for free is just start sharing my stuff around. Just click on any videos you like, share them with your friends, share them in wherever you want. That really helps out quite a bit, and I really appreciate that. What's up, Alex? How are you doing today? Yeah, you're more than welcome to ask questions in chat. We're going to start these songs in just a second, but so I probably won't be able to get into like super deep detail for answering questions right now unless we have time at the end. But you're always more than welcome to toss questions in chat, and we can definitely talk about it kind of as we go through things, or if we finish up all the songs earlier. But yeah, that's kind of the idea. This is one of my favorite things to do. So I'm really excited to hear what you guys got going on. Last week, the tracks were outstanding. It was just, everything sounded really great. So I was really impressed with the tracks you've been sharing. So Alex is asking, he's got a gong sample, and the sample is missing 20% of the tail. What's to extend the tail and to make it a natural sound? Off the top of my head, there's a couple ways I've tried doing that. One would be, yeah, so one would be just warping. Just take the same gong and just stretch it out a little bit, and then add a little fade out at the end. And that way it's the same length as it would be, and then it just kind of fades out. If you want it to be like really long, warping's really going to stretch it too much, and that's not really going to work for you. You could also just try playing it a lower pitch. That would also extend it, and same thing, kind of just fade it out. The other thing I would probably do is just use a bunch of reverb. Just like a really high dry wet on a reverb, and it'll obviously sound like a very reverbed gong. If that's okay with you, you can just use that reverb tail like it's the real thing. Yeah, Yogi agrees with me. I would probably fake it with reverb. That'd probably be my first bet. Or kind of combine that with stretching, and then just do a little volume fade at the end. So instead of just ending, it kind of has a nice long fade out at the end. That's personally how I do it, but it might vary a little bit. Sweet. So that's a good question now. We are going to dive into it. Or worst case scenario, I would just use a different gong sample. Like why like, unless you're like really attached to specifically that sound of that gong, I would just go into a sample library, go to Splice, whatever, and just get a different gong sample that is just longer. But if you're really tied to your gong sample, then yeah, that'd be how I'd go about doing it. All right, so the first track we're going to get into is by Harris. I think this is left over from last week. We didn't have a chance to get into it, so we're going to be taking a look at that first. And also, just as a reminder, if you want to send me a track, just click on the spreadsheet that is linked up at the top of the chat. All right, so as always, the first song, we got to do a little bit of a sound check, make sure everything's working. So let me know if it sounds a little too quiet or too loud. Nice. We've had a few tracks from Harris on the channel, and I think this one really stands out as really exemplifying this style, this kind of like hyper bass kind of style, and sounds really good. It like you very clearly know what's going on with this style, and you know it really well. And I think that this is probably one of your best sounding tracks that I think I've heard. I think I pretty much usually have the same feedback for you when it comes to your kick. You have these very mid-rangey kicks, and I'm not a big fan of them, to be honest. I think they work fine in the actual drop section. Like I think here the kick sounds fine, and here it sounds okay. But early on, I'm just not feeling the kick here. The kick is too filtered and it's too quiet. And so it doesn't like really bring up the energy level. So I think this is probably the weakest part of the song, is like transitioning from your intro into your first drop. First drop onward, I think the song is brilliant and needs very little changing or anything else. What's up, After Party? How you doing today? But yeah, this transition just wasn't doing it for me. This little part right here, from here on, is actually really cool. This is super cool. But getting to that point, I think, needs a little bit of love. But yeah, I would, again, I might be biased here. I might be just like the kind of kicks that I like in this style of music are a little bit cleaner than what you're using. But I think your kick works here okay here. I think it's fine. Other than that, you have this choppy gated layer. It's like not quite a pad. It's here a lot. You hear that kind of like choppy sound. It's just a little bit too loud, I think. I think it's distracting from the main kind of lead sound. So I like it a lot. Just volume down on that a tiny bit. Your snare, you have this very kind of clappy sounding snare. Also, I think needs a little bit of love, a little bit more volume, and a little bit more compression, probably. Maybe a hair of reverb. It's just like, I want that thing to really slap. And right now it's good, but I think it could be better. Yeah, love all the different weird layers you have going on there. The hats sound really good. All the little intricate sound design sounds great. And I love this part too. It's like, I like how the gating is kind of rhythmic, and then occasionally you kind of stutter it in these kind of awkward ways, but it actually really works for the style of music you're doing here. So I like that kind of like off-kilter stutter you got going on. I kind of feel like it'd be nice if every once in a while your bass had a little bit more time to shine, like if it got a little bit more of the focus and you did a little bit more with that. But that's a pretty minor complaint. I think overall this section's pretty solid. But yeah, that's kind of what I'm feeling there. Really, really solid track. At this point, I'm really just kind of like, I want you to just hone in those details, hone on the transition, a little bit on the mix, and a little bit on some of the production stuff. But overall, I think this is a dope track, and really does not need a whole lot of work to make it sound really good. Chat, what do you guys think? People liking the sound design, liking the stuttering? Anything else working or not working for you guys? Sweet. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and pull up the next track, which is gonna be Yogi. All right. Yeah, no worries. Nice, that's dope. The real spooky, you don't need Discord. I just pinned a spreadsheet up to the top of chat. Just click on that, and that'll take you to a Google Sheet, and you just put your link in there, and then you're good to go. So you don't need Discord or anything fancy like that. This track is sick. I love it. Very different in a lot of ways to the other tracks you've been sending. I felt like the drum rhythm on this, especially your kick rhythm, really kind of caught me off guard. I was expecting a more four on the floor kind of thing, to do like more kind of like minimal IDM housey thing. And this really kind of took me off guard. And I think it was a really good decision. I think it really works and really makes this whole track like really interesting, I think. So rhythmically, I love what's going on. In terms of sound design, really solid. Again, the way you are jumping back and forth between different sounds and ideas just works. And like sometimes it's weird and awkward, but it also still works. So really solid job on that. I kind of want a little bit more reverb on that clap, or a little bit something else extra special on that clap. I think that'd be really helpful. I love that there's like a little dub snare in there right here that's really subtle. Maybe more volume on that, because I think little things like that really make this style music work. That little dubby snare there. I think the kick can be louder, and I would not mind that. I think right here something new needs to come in. I feel like this does a really good job of kind of like setting the stage for the kind of the beat and the rhythm and what's going on with this track. But it'd be cool if there was one new layer of percussion, maybe like a off time hi-hat could be kind of cool, or like a cymbal or something like that. Something really simple just to make it feel like we're kind of leveling up as we go. And I think right at this little transition here, I think would be a good place to put that. I also really wouldn't mind some reverse sounds in here. I think there's a lot of space where you could just take some of these sounds and just reverse it every once in a while, especially at the end of a phrase like this. And then reverse sound here, and then beat comes in. All right, and then I think on the vocoded vocals, that might be the weakest link in this track. To me, they didn't quite fit in, and I couldn't really understand what they're saying at all, and that might be intentional. But it felt like the vocoded vocals were kind of distracting me from a lot of the other really cool things going on with this track. So if you're really tied to them, keep them. But I felt like this track has a lot of other really cool things going on for it, and I wasn't sure about the vocoded vocals. Little drum fill in there, breakbeat drum fill, love it. I feel like this could really evolve into like a really crazy kind of like square pusher, crazy breakbeat IDM kind of thing if you wanted to, and I would be all in favor of that. Like this has a lot of potential right here. Yeah, I really love the ending here. This track definitely needs to be longer. Like, I think this is a really fertile ground for just trying out a bunch of really cool, interesting sonic experiments and kind of taking it in different directions. And I think it'd be cool if like you did get almost even like Venetian snares, just like crazy beats going on, and just like it gets crazier and crazier as time goes on. But like that kick drum stays really steady. I think that'd be really cool. But yeah, super fun track. I love hearing this kind of stuff. I think it's not enough people are doing this kind of thing right now. But yeah, chat, thoughts, ideas, questions, comments, let me know. After party, it looks like you had a track in there, and then now it's not in there. Did you delete the link or change it or something? Let me know. But I'm gonna skip ahead because I thought I saw a link in there before. All right, next up we got a track from Spooky. Welcome. I don't think you've shared a track here before. Oh, there, now After Party's track's back, but After Party, we'll come back to you in just a second.
Melodrama, take what's yours, bitch.
Easy, why you doing so?
I have nightmares, late nights, see you in my bed. Tossing, turning with my demons, yeah, they wish that I was dead. Rolling up the Mary Jane, take the feelings to the head. Trying to misdirect the feelings that I knew I always led. Know you wish I was dead, but no, I ain't going away. Even though you well love, know I am what to say. And you broke my heart, read that shit from the start. Blowing down his car, push the engine to start. When she left, gave me kisses like a show and tell. Now I'm throwing pennies all up in the wishing well. Even though you left me sad, know I wish you well. Did you even love me from the start? Can't tell. And I won't fall for the love, I'll never do it again. Only trust the blunt and liquor, yeah, those my friends. No, she's nice, I wanna tip her. Let's hop in the Benz. No LA, but wanna clip her. Play grip from the friends. Now I'm all up in the clouds.
Is this you on the vocals or on the beat or both?
Monster, yeah, I'm kill bummed. And I'm wasting off the love, yeah, I'm too drunk. And I love you, Jada, but you know that I'm drunk. I have nightmares, late nights, see you in my bed. Tossing, turning with my demons, yeah, they wish that I was dead. Rolling up the Mary Jane, take the feelings to the head. Trying to misdirect the feelings that I knew I always led. Know you wish I was dead, but no, I ain't going away. Even though you well love, know I am what to say. And you broke my heart, read that shit from the start. Blowing down his car, push the engine to start.
Nice. So you bought the beat. Did you just buy it as like just the like stereo file, or did you do you have like stems for it and things like that? Because I think overall it's sounding pretty solid. But I do think there's a few things in the mix that could use a little bit of love. And if you have the stems for the beat, that'll make your life a lot easier. But if you only have the like just the wave file, it's going to be a little bit more tricky to handle that. But yeah. Oh, cool. You got stems. Great. Perfect. So I think you start off really solid with this guitar sound. I think the guitar sounds really solid. In the background, you have this kind of like filtered bass thing going on. I would probably turn that bass up a little bit. Right now it sounds a little distant. Yeah, I mean, I think mixing is one of those things like it's going to take a lot of practice, especially something like this where you don't have that many sounds, but they all need to be really loud, and so that can be tricky. But I think mix sounds fine in the intro, with the exception of you have this, like I said, this kind of like filtered bass sound. And I wouldn't mind if that filtered bass sound was a little bit louder. All right, and then coming into the actual beat itself.
I have nightmares, late nights.
Yeah, honestly, I think the vocals sound pretty good. I think it's more the mix of the instrumental, and once you fix the mix of the instrumental, it'll be easier to hear the vocals. I think they sound pretty decent the way they are now. So first off, your kick sounds a little bit overcompressed.
See you in my bed, tossing, turning with my demons, yeah, they wish that I was dead. Rolling up the
which makes it just like, it just sounds kind of squashed and it's just not really like coming through. So if you got a compressor on that kick, maybe dial that back a little bit. You also might want to play with the decay of your kick. Right now it sounds very much like all the way on or all the way off. And again, I'm not sure if you have these in audio or MIDI or what your situation is, but maybe make it so that they kind of decay out a little bit, so you have a little bit of silence in between each kick.
Mary Jane, take the feelings to the head. Trying to misdirect the feelings that I knew I always led. Know you wish I was dead, but no, I ain't going away.
The hats sound a little bit loud to me, so I'll dial them back a little bit.
Even though you love, know I am what to say. And you broke my heart with that shit from the start. Blowing down his car, push the engine to start. When she left, gave me kisses like a show and tell. Now I'm throwing.
Yeah, all the percussion can go way down. I think that'll create a lot more room because there's this really cool thing going on right in here, but it's hard to hear because the hi-hats are so loud.
Show and tell. Now I'm throwing pennies all up in the wishing well. Even though you left me sad, no, I wish you well. Did you even let me?
Yeah, it sounds like a faster guitar thing going on here. I can barely hear that, and it sounds really cool. So turn that guy up.
From the start, can't tell. And now I'm fought for the love. I'm never do it again. Only trust the blunt and liquor. Yeah, those my friend.
Same thing I've been saying to everybody so far. A little bit more reverb on your clap snare sound. I think that'll bring it out a lot and also compress it a little bit more.
No, she's nice, I wanna tip her. Last top in the bins. No LA, but wanna clip her. Blake Griffin of France. Now I'm all up in the clouds and I'm falling again. Standing in the mirror, monster. Yeah, I'm kill bummed. And I'm wasting off the love. Yeah, I'm too drunk.
So right here, you have some people talking in the background while you're also singing. I can't really tell what they're saying at all. And so I think this might be a situation where you either want it to be one or the other. Like it's either you singing or them talking. And so if you want to do both, maybe make this section a little bit longer. And that way you can still get both in there. If you're up to me, I'll probably just get rid of the people talking in the background and just leave your vocals because I think that sounds more important. But I like this break section here. I think it works pretty well. And I think overall your vocals are sounding really good. I don't have a lot of feedback on the vocal processing. It's mostly the instrumental that I think needs to be dialed in a bit.
And I love you, Jada, but you know that I'm drunk. I have nightmares, late nights, see you in my bed. Tossing, turning with my demons, yeah, they wish that I was dead. Rolling up the Mary Jane, take the feelings to the head. Trying to misdirect.
Maybe a tiny bit less reverb on the vocals. I'm hearing that a little bit too much in some of these sections.
The feelings that I knew I always led. Know you wish I was dead, but no, I ain't going away. Even though you love, know I am what to say. And you broke my heart with that shit from the start. Blowing down his car, push the engine to start.
Other than that, just play with the intro, the outro a little bit. I think there's actually, you could do a really nice, cool, long outro here, and I wouldn't mind it. Right now, it just kind of like ends in the middle of the outro. So maybe fill that out a little bit more, so it actually like you get some nice little guitar parts at the end, and it's a cool way to like just end the track. Or take some of the vocal, people talking from this break section here, and put it in the outro, and that way you can like have some more going on in the outro. But yeah, I think it sounds cool. I think it's the vocals sound pretty good, except for a tiny bit too much reverb, and just down in the mix on the rest of the instrumental, and you should be pretty good to go. But yeah, thanks for sharing that. Chat, you got any other thoughts, questions, ideas? Also, if you are enjoying the feedback, if you like what's going on, you can feel free to hit the like button. And if you are just joining us and you would like to send me a track, you can do so in the spreadsheet that I linked up at the top of chat. All right, we got another music video. Yeah, no worries, Spooky. We do this every Wednesday. Yeah, no worries, Harris. It's a dope track. Nice, that's a sick track. You're really crushing it on the like combining the old school videos with the like interesting lo-fi Boards of Canada production stuff. They're like you've got an eye for combining those two, which is really cool. Yeah, Spooky, no worries. So you're definitely allowed to send in more than one track, but I won't get to the second track until I get to the first track of everybody else, just so you know. Sweet. So yeah, I really love it. However, to me, it kind of sounds like there's two different tracks going on here. You have a track for the intro and outro that I absolutely adore. Like, it just give me an album of just this all day. And then it kind of evolves into a different place when the beat comes in. It's a much more, it's like a totally different vibe. And I can get behind having songs that kind of like shift in and out between different genres. However, to me, I think that this vibe doesn't really match with this a whole lot. Not to say you can't make that work, I think you could, but to me it sounds like this might be a beat that lives in a different song, and then you just leave the other part by itself. If you want to kind of do something kind of in between, I think the big thing about this section of the song that is kind of standing out to me is that bass line. Just that kind of like saw wave bass. I think all of the synth parts and even the drum beat I can get behind as being part of the song, but the actual beat itself, or not the beat, that bass line, it's a little too stabby when everything else is kind of like nice and kind of like, I don't know, gooey, I guess. Let's do the transition again. It just kind of comes in. Yeah, I think I can get behind the synth, all the synth parts, and the drum beat. It's just specifically that bass line to me. It just like it doesn't work. I don't think. Let's jump over here because this part's great. You get the hats first. Yeah, I would love to hear the I would love to hear this track without that bass line, just to kind of see what it sounds like, or like a different bass line, different kind of bass line. I think the bass is really the thing that kind of sticks out. Like this part works for me because it doesn't have the bass line in there. Yeah, that's my big issue. It's just the bass line. I just, it's hard for me to get behind it. I just don't, it just sounds like a totally different thing, and I'm just not feeling it as much. But yeah, other than that, I love it. I think the guitar parts, especially the intro and outro, work especially well. Like this part's super cool, especially in combination with these visuals. And I think the outro could be longer. Is that guitar a sample, or is that you playing guitar on that? Yeah, that's really the kind of what I'm feeling here. Just the bass just throws it off a little bit too much. You could try the same bass, but maybe just filter out a lot of the mids and highs, like a little low pass in there, and that could help. Yeah, the guitar sounds great. Loving the guitar on that. Sweet. Well, thanks for sharing that. Yeah, and keep doing these videos. These videos just work so well with this. Yeah, I'm with Yogi. The mellow beginning, the outro, the guitars are all crushing it. Sweet. So next up, we got a track from Username. Using it's possible that's the YouTube compression. It's also possible it's not. What's up, Gaunt? Yeah, how you doing? Also, what do you guys think about the chat on the screen over here below me? Is that working for you or not? Or does it make any difference at all? Yeah, you get chat on the replays anyway. Yeah, I'm digging it. I like this quite a bit. So in the notes, he mentioned the VIT. There's no bass in it, and it's not mixed yet. But I think it's totally fine. So yeah, I agree with the fact that you were saying earlier about the percussion being a little bit too loud. Yeah, that's true. It's a little too loud. It's not massively too loud, but I can definitely hear it a little bit too much. But I love the drums. I think the drums sound great. They sound really natural. They sound just like they have this cool kind of like jazzy feel to them. The drums are working really well. I like your main kind of synth line. Also, it's doing this kind of like Boards of Canada kind of chords sound design. I love all the glitchiness to it. I think the thing about this track is that it feels like it needs one or two more instruments. I think it needs something in like the high, like mid to high frequency range, and I could hear there being a guitar on here. It could work really well. You could do another synth line if you want to. I think it'd be cool if it was just a non-synth instrument. So guitar could be really cool. I would love to hear like a saxophone on this, just like a little like somebody jamming out on the saxophone in the middle. I think could be really cool, or some kind of horn could work really well. Something to help kind of like fill out that range a little bit more, I think will be really awesome. I think this section feels a little bit empty. More of those kind of glitchy, weird sound effects, I definitely wouldn't mind. Yeah, just a little saxophone in here. And then I really like the end here as well. Like this part, you could throw in some really distorted guitars and just like have like a bunch of really big guitar chords to go with it. Yeah, I'm digging all the percussive parts. Or maybe in this part, you could put a little like arpeggiated synth part, could go kind of well. You got a lot of potential. You got a lot of space in this song. And I feel like everything that you got going on is working, but you got a little bit more room to toss in more cool stuff. And whichever cool stuff you choose to toss in here is up to you. And I think there's a lot of options that could work really well for this. So you have a world of possibilities before you in terms of how you want to round out the rest of the instrumentation for this track. But in terms of production, I think it sounds really good. I like all the sounds and like all the things that are here. Yeah, that's a dope track. All right. Sweet. So as far as I can tell, unless I'm mistaken, everybody else, and we've gotten through one track from everybody who's in the spreadsheet. So if anybody is out there in chat world and has not yet sent in a track and wants me to listen to the track, now would be a good time to do it because I think everybody else has already had at least one song reviewed today. So I might wait a minute, see if anyone else wants to pop something in there. But otherwise, we will start getting into second tracks from people. That's looking good. All right. So we got another track from Spooky. And Spooky, if you're still there, I'm assuming this is going to be like the last track where it's you on the vocals and you got a beat with stems or something like that that you have access to.
Look, I feel scared, now she running, gotta catch her. Past did me dirty, lay me dead, I'm on a stretcher. New girl I met, I feel we'll never be together. New girl I met, I feel her drifting for the pressure. Look, I feel scared, now she running, gotta catch her. Past did me dirty, lay me dead, I'm on a stretcher. New girl I met, I feel we'll never be together. New girl I met, I feel her drifting for the pressure. This a love story, conscious session, time to learn. Mini mo, picking me, I had a turn. Never had a chance, swing or miss, I'm out the bag. Question on my wrongs, I never wanna make you sad. Now it's all on me, I got you, love you to my heart. Feeling really lucky, choosing me, I'll play my part. I always do the good thing, I'm always choosing right. Fighting with my demons, tossing, turning through the night. The nice guy, girl, I hate it when you crying, look at my eyes. Yeah, I feel a shock ride. Now we're all but the pieces, but you took mine. Now I'm all do bad again. Now I know I get too close and then she telling all her friends. And I know I told you differently, but this is how it ends. And I know you feel the world start, baby, life spin. And I know you think about me, but I'll never love again. New girl feeling scared, now she running, gotta catch her. Past did me dirty, leave me dead, I'm on a stretcher. New girl I met, I feel we'll never be together. New girl I met, I feel her drifting, feel the pressure. New girl feeling scared, now she running, gotta catch her. Past did me dirty, leave me dead, I'm on a stretcher. New girl I met, I feel we'll never be together. New girl I met, I feel her drifting, feel the pressure. Whoa. New girl feeling scared, now she running, gotta catch her.
Nice. I think overall, this also sounds pretty nice. It sounds pretty good. I think it suffers from a lot of the same issues from the other track that you shared earlier. I think that once again, your 808 bass kick drum is a little bit overcompressed, and so ends up like taking up all this space in your mix, which makes the rest of the mix sound really cluttered. And that's really kind of the big issue here, is that overall the sounds are good. Like everything sounds pretty quality. But when I listen to this, it's just like I'm being hit with a wall of sound, and it's hard for my brain to know which sounds I'm supposed to be paying attention to at any given time. If you want to hear more about that, check out the stream I did last Monday, where I just ranted for an hour about mixing and kind of my process behind mixing. So I think that a lot of these sounds are just too loud. And I think what you want to do is set kind of like a hierarchy where like some sounds are louder than others, and then it creates like a sense where your listener can focus on the things you want them to focus on, and you can still hear all the background supporting sounds. And so that's what I was noticing here, is that like everything was really loud. And so turn some things down so you can hear some things more than other, and I think that'll make all the difference in the world in your mixes. Other thing that I noticed that was also an issue on your last track is you have this like big, beautiful, boomy 808 kick, and then you have this very kind of small clap sound to go with it. So you have this one big bass sound and then your little clap that sounds really weak. So don't forget about putting some love into that clap. Compress it, put some reverb on it, process it in whatever way you see fit, make it sound bigger, layer it. That's a big one. Layer your claps. Right now this sounds like a generic 808 clap, which is not necessarily bad, but make it sound a little more unique, make it sound a little different. And I think layering here plus a little bit of processing on your clap will make the whole beat just sound more well-rounded. Other than that, I think the auto-tune is a little bit heavy for my personal taste. If you don't feel that way, then you can ignore that. That's very much a stylistic choice more than anything else. But for me, I would tone it down a tiny bit. Same thing on the vocals. You went a little bit too heavy on the reverb, and I think this amount of reverb for very specific moments, like this little break, I think are actually really nice. Right here. But then the actual verses and choruses and things like that, tone down the reverb a little bit so you can hear yourself a little bit clearer. Never had a chance, swing a miss, I'm out the bag. Question on my wrongs, I never wanna make you sad. Now it's all on me, I got you, love you to my heart. Feeling really. The volume on the percussion is actually okay in this track. It was too loud in the last one, but this one sounds decent. You're lucky choosing me, I'll play my part. I always did a good thing, I'm always choosing right. This is what you took mine. Now I'm all do bad again. Now I know I get too close and then she telling all her friends. And I know I told you differently, but it's. Yeah, same thing here. I'm just, every time I try to listen to your vocals, I'm just hearing reverb just surrounding them all the time. I think a lot of times with reverb and vocals, you want it to be just barely audible. Like you want it to be there, but you don't want it to distract from the actual vocals themselves. I also feel like your piano here is getting drowned out in a lot of situations. Your melody is just kind of, it's disappearing in the mix a little bit. So you might want to turn that up. And you want to turn up the melody a little bit in points where you think it's important, basically. But yeah, that's kind of what I'm feeling. Other than that, I think the track works. It's got all the things for the style of music. New girl I met, I fool, never be together. New girl I met,
I feel like drifting for the pressure. Whoa.
Yeah, I would still play around with the 808 and really see if you can, like, you know, again, give it that little bit of decay, make that fit right in there, and then that's going to solve a lot of your problems. But yeah, again, cool track. I think you got a lot of stuff going on here that's working for you, and it's just a lot of like little tiny details that if you tweak here and there, will make a big difference in the long run. Sweet. Chat, any other thoughts, ideas, questions, comments? Well, let me know. All right, we got another track from Harris. Once again, I would like to let people know if you are just joining us, you can click on the link that is pinned to the top of the chat. That takes you to the spreadsheet, and that's where you're going to send me your tracks. But it seems like most of you guys are liking having the chat on the stream, right? Because I haven't decided if I'm going to keep it or not. All right, let me check out what's going on here. So still working on the build, need some feedback on mixing and progression. Disregard the kick in the drop. I think it's the same sample, the same kick drum sample that I always give feedback on. Oh, what's up, Josh? How you doing? Yeah, crushing it. Sounds really, really good. Let me get to feedback in just a second. Ganya, yeah, you are more than welcome to send in your demo. Also, in the spreadsheet, Ganya, put the link to your track that was released today. And then we can all link it in the chat. Yeah, I honestly don't have a lot of feedback here. I think it sounds great. I love what's going on. I think you could do a lot with the vocal sample. That little vocal sample there. I think there's a lot of room to explore that and maybe like pitch it up or pitch it down and do some more with that. But other than that, I love it. I think it sounds really good. I think the mix sounds not quite polished yet, but pretty, like, you're on the right path. Yeah, same with the build. I think the builds are oftentimes what I'm noticing the weakest link for your tracks. The actual drops themselves are crushing it. So one of the things I'd like you to try to do for homework is try number one, listen to a lot of songs in this style and see what they're doing with their builds. Because this is like a pretty classic, pretty like, generic way to do a build up. Where the like kick just gets faster. Try like a non-traditional way of doing that. There's lots of examples out there. I made a video a while back about an EPROM and G Jones track where they have like a very non-traditional build. Get weird with it. You're getting so weird in the best ways with your drops, but your builds are just kind of like, they're not catching my attention in the way the rest of the track is. So that I think is really the biggest piece of feedback. And if you can dial that in, I think your mixes are like well on their way to where they need to be. And then the last kind of step was just like really just cranking it through the master and just getting like a really big sounding master on this. And then you got a track that's ready to go to like start sending off the labels. I think there's a little bit more room to explore with that bass line too. I like what you got going on. But I think you could do more with it. I think you could maybe like occasionally add some distortion to it, maybe do some glitchy edits to it, like really explore that a bit more. But I like what it's doing so far. Yeah, I love the drops. Your drops need very, very little work. They're sounding really polished, and that's usually the hard part for a lot of people is getting the drops to work, and then people can make builds. So yeah, spend some time, get some reference tracks with really cool builds. Think about ways that you can kind of transition from your intro into your actual drop itself. And I think once you do that, you're gonna be feeling, the tracks are gonna be feeling really, really good. Yeah, honestly, not a lot of critical feedback here. Yeah, put the link in the spreadsheet and I can link it in the chat. Yeah, anybody else got any thoughts, questions? Yeah, Speaky, you can go back and check the feedback. It looks like you did. Yeah, Karis, keep doing this. Like it's working for me. It's working real well. All right, so I'm gonna do this here real quick. Does that link work? Cool. So that's a link to Ganya's new track that he shared with us, I think, a couple weeks ago. It's a dope track. Check it out. I guess that's like the link where you can, all the places where you can stream it and take a listen to it. So if you haven't heard Ganya's tracks, you should check them out. In fact, you're about to hear one of his tracks because he submitted another one. But check out that link that I put in chat. And if you guys also are like doing releases and you're getting stuff out there in the world, I want to figure out a way where we can kind of like share that stuff and do some kind of like cross-pollination and everybody can help each other out, which we kind of do in the Discord a little bit, but it'd be nice to have like a more formal way to make that happen. All right, so Yogi and After Party. I still see your second tracks, but Ganya hasn't done one yet this week.
I'm exactly where I wanted to be because I realized I gotta commit my very being to this thing. And until you get there, you'll never be successful in life. But once you get there, I guarantee you. But I'm exactly where I wanted to be because I realized I gotta commit my very being to this thing. And until you get there, you'll never be successful in life. But once you get there, I guarantee
Connections.
the world is yours. But I'm exactly where I wanted to be because I realized I gotta my very being to this thing. And until you get there, you'll never be successful in life. Once you get there, I guarantee you, the world is yours. I'm exactly where I wanted to be because I realized I gotta commit my very being to this thing. And until you get there, you'll never be successful in life. Once you get there, I guarantee you, the world is yours.
The mix sounds really good as it is already, even if you haven't mixed it.
I'm exactly where I wanted to be because I realized I gotta commit my very being to this thing. Until you get there, you'll never be successful in life. Once you get there, I guarantee you, the world is yours. Exactly where I wanted to be, because I realized I gotta commit my very being to this thing. Until you get there, you'll never be successful in life. Once you get there, I guarantee you, the world is yours.
Nice. That's a really, really awesome track. One of the things I really love about this track is that the bass is never really heavy or in your face, but it's always there, and it gives it this really big low end without feeling like it has a really big low end, which is kind of a cool, interesting approach, which I like a lot. So to start off, I like your use of the two vocal samples, the guy talking and then the guy saying connections. However, I think I hear the word connections too many times in this song. So I would keep it there, but maybe not as many of those of the guy saying connections.
I gotta commit my very being to this.
The other thing is,
Because I realized
I would hold off on some of this percussion. So the percussion comes in here, and then later on,
once you get there, I guarantee connections. The world is yours. But I'm exactly where
now bring in the percussion. Or maybe you hold back on some of the percussion a little bit more. Up to you whether you want to do that or not. That might be what I would do. Also, your percussion's too loud. It's just too loud in the mix. And then same thing for your, I think you've got a snare later on that's too quiet. Yeah, your snare is just a little too quiet here and needs a little bit of love. I think the plucky bass sound could be a little bit louder though, especially on like the mid range of that pluck to really kind of like give it that nice percussive feel. Love this part. And then my last piece of feedback is I really like this little synth melody line you got going on. It feels a little bit too basic though. It just feels like a little bit like everything else has this nice kind of richness to it. And this synth line in particular. It just sounds like it sounds a little bit too minimal, a little bit too like retro in terms of sound design, whereas everything else has this like very rich quality to it. So I would maybe swap out that synth sound with a slightly different synth sound and maybe a little bit more complicated of a note progression there. Yeah, and maybe a little bit more, like I said, a little bit more of that plucky bass sound. But yeah, love this track. You know, all your tracks have this really awesome, cool, dark atmosphere that just works really well. Like they're dark, but they're also groovy and kind of like fun to dance to. So yeah, really, really solid work. Yeah, I think for being an early draft, this song is sounding really solid. All right, next up we got a track from Josh. Yeah, of course, thanks for popping by, yeah.
Nothing can contain me, not even your device screen. I'm more than just pixels and posts. Nothing can contain me, not even a file stream. I'm more than any caption or post.
We've heard this one before, right?
You like me better in reality. Nothing can contain me, not even a flat screen. Getting ready to give you a shutty. You can't just stream the taste of my bursting flavor. Stream the scent of my burning fire. Stream the heat of a stage set lighting. You can't just stream the crowd. Stream it in surround sound. Stream the hype of my rising to their feet. No more delays, come and meet me in 1, 2, 3, 4 days. I'll be selling out. I'll be stepping out of your stream, out of your dreams, into being, teasing you in 4 days. I'll be showing up. I'll be blowing up, normalizing, digitizing, breathing it in, reaching you in 4D. Okay, here it comes. Let's go. I'm a setter. Yeah, trendsetter. You would be correct, I have that effect each day. Did I flex my facts? Just listen to our track replay. Oh my. Really not complex, wait for what comes next. Just wait. You can't just stream the taste of my bursting flavor. Stream the scent of my burning fire. Stream all the lights, stream all the heat.
Nice. Really cool track here you have going on. Kind of reminds me a lot of like early Nero, like Welcome Reality Nero, which is like a super important, influential, seminal piece of electronic music history, in my opinion. I think there's a few things going on here that need to be taken a look at. I think number one, your vocalist has got a great voice. I think I mentioned this last time you played this. And I think that as of right now, the mix is all over the place. There's certain points where her vocals are too quiet. There's certain points where they're too loud. There's certain points where they're just right. And it's really just kind of jumping all over the place. So you need to watch out for that. People are mentioning a little bit more vocal processing. I could see that for sure. There's a few points where they definitely sound a little bit dry. And I think playing around with a little bit more processing the vocals could definitely work. However, I think the probably bigger issue besides the mix thing is your bass line. I think the bass line it feels a little bit repetitive and it feels like it's missing a little bit in the mid range at certain points, especially during the more kind of climactic parts, like this part and this part. The bass line's really just not grabbing me. And I think that you might even, for some of those, especially more kind of climactic parts, just scrap that bass line and just have a totally different bass sound for those bass parts to really kind of bring up the energy level. Because right now it's just, it's not feeling impactful, which is why I recommend listening to that Nero album, because that might give you some ideas for reference for the kind of bass line that I could hear on this. Yeah, the bass line I think is really kind of the weak link here. I think the drums sound really good. I think they could use a little bit more processing and things like that. Welcome Reality, I believe is the name of the album by Nero, just Nero. Which like does the thing about that album is it rides this line between pop and electronic music in a way that like nobody else I've seen does. Because normally I think pop music can be really cheesy, and they do a really good job of using these kind of like pop vocals, but also like at the time really innovative electronic music. Are you asking about in terms of a little more stability in terms of volume for the vocals? I mean, I think part of it is going to be, having your vocal group and just automating the volume up and down as the track changes. So when there's more competition, when there's more other sounds happening, the vocals need to be louder to sit on top of it. And when there's situations where there's less things happening, like this part, the vocals can be quieter because they're competing with less things. But for the parts that are really impactful, the vocals need to be louder. So you're going to need to be like riding the volume on your vocal group to make sure it stays where you want it to be. And then just really paying attention to all of the other sounds and then the relationship between all of the instrumental sounds and the vocals. But like here, for example, to me, the vocals seem a little bit too quiet. They're just like, yeah, so Josh, the other option is just compress it. Use a combination of automating vocals and then just really trying to dial in your compression. And that way there's certain points where it's naturally going to be louder because she's just singing louder. That way it doesn't get too loud at those points. And then if she's singing quieter, then it'll be more, it'll be bumped up a little bit. But it's going to be tricky. Mixing this kind of music, especially with this kind of vocals, with as many loud layers underneath it is not going to be easy. And I do not envy you for that. But just know it's going to take a lot of work and it's going to take a lot of time and a lot of frustration to kind of get those vocals sitting where you want. I think when in doubt for this kind of song, err on the side of the vocals being a tiny bit too loud. Because if they're a tiny bit too loud, most people don't care. But if they're too quiet, then it really kills a lot of the energy of the song. So that's what I'd recommend doing, is just err on the side of making the vocals a little bit louder than you think. Yeah, don't feel defeated by it. Like I said, this is going to be a really tricky track to mix because you do have lots of big, loud synths, lots of big, loud drums, and then lots of big, loud vocals, and you want to make sure you can hear everything, and that can be really tricky. So don't be discouraged by it. But just know it's going to be a pain in the ass.
Me, not even a flex screen, getting ready to give you a stream out of your dreams, into being, teasing you in. Really not complex, wait for what comes next. Just wait, you can't just.
Yeah, but I think the vocals sound really good. It's just making sure that like the relationship between the vocals and the rest of the track ends up like meshing together and working together. Yeah, other than that, like I said, bass line, I think for this part, bass line's great. But during the actual these parts, it's not quite doing it for me. Something a little bit more square wavy, something with a little bit more mid-range, I think will fit in there really well and could be really cool. Other than that, I like what you're doing with the drums. There's like all these cool snare things going on that are working for me. But yeah, that's kind of what I'm hearing right now. Hopefully that's useful. Hopefully that's helpful. You got your work cut out for you, but I think you can do it. I think you can definitely make this track work. Chat, what do you guys think? Questions, comments, ideas? I might go listen to that Nero album after stream. The one thing that I was talking about a little bit last stream with mixing is that might help with this track is doing, I don't know if you're already doing this or not, but doing submixes. So like mix all your drums together so they sound good together, mix all your basses together so they sound good together, mix all your vocals so they sound good together, and then you can just kind of like compare your drums and your bass and get them sounding good together, and then your bass and your vocals and get them sounding good together, and kind of like divide and conquer, and that can be a lot easier way than trying to mix all of it at the same time. Not sure if you're already doing that or not. So Yogi, it looks like the second track you sent in there, the link did not work. If you want to try it again, it was either removed or something's wrong with the link. All right, I think I got the right link for this one. So yeah, Yogi, if you're there, just update the link and let me know once you do that. And then After Party, it looks like you sent me something that needs access. If you want to make it, anybody who has the link can take a look at it, then I will listen to that. All right, we're going to try After Party again, or Yogi. Cool. Got it. Also, before we get into this, if anybody is out there and has not yet submitted a song, now would be the time to do so. I think we got this one and then one more, and then I think we've gotten through everybody. So if you have not yet shared a track, go ahead and toss one in there. Nice. That's sick. It's a little different than some of the other tracks. I like how you're doing you kind of jumping around a little bit genre wise. It's a little bit less accessible than the other ones. I think a lot of your other ones kind of like border on this kind of like IDM almost danceable kind of world, and this one it feels like a bit of a departure from that, where it's much more about just kind of like rhythmic experimentation and just sounds, which I think is totally cool, and I think is a legit way to go about making a track. It does remind me a bit of Vessel. If you ever listen to that artist, if this is kind of stuff you're into, check out Vessel. Yeah, I'm digging it. I feel like it got a little bit repetitive at certain points, and I think at certain points you did a really good job of like sprinkling in new sounds or new ideas to kind of keep it fresh. But overall, I think I kind of wanted it to change up a little bit more over time if you're going to keep it this length. Just because it gets like, okay, like I kind of hear these sounds over and over again, and I want you to go more places with it, basically. Starting off, actually I like the intro. It's kind of cool. It's interesting. It's weird. It's got a bunch of sounds that are cool. I like this part a lot. Yeah, I think it just like, yeah, not to repeat myself, but I think it just like, I wanted to explore the space some more and kind of see what happens when you swap things out a little bit. I think that your main kind of synth sound, this guy, I think it does get a little bit annoying after a while, and so that might be an experience you want your audience to feel. I think that's totally fine if you're like, I want to challenge my audience. I want them to try to like listen to the sound a bunch. So I think it'd be cool to explore that a little bit more and switch it up. I think that'd probably be the best way to do that. I also really love how chaotic it gets at the end. It's just, it's just like, it works for me. I like the end a lot. It's like this kind of section in like this section in here and this section here that I think got a little bit repetitive, but this part was really cool. And this part was super cool as well. But yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking there. I feel like you could like toss in some crazy tom drums in here and I would not mind that. Yeah, check out Vessel if you don't know his stuff. It's really good. The album he released a couple years ago, maybe like 2018 or 2019, is an unbelievably good album. Really, I think underappreciated. I forget the name of the album though. All right, so next up, we got another one from After Party. Nice. Quick question for you though: is this a like VSD like a digital drumming situation, or is this somebody actually playing drums? Um, yeah, I like it. It actually reminds me a lot of the track that Username played earlier, where he's kind of using this kind of like live, acoustic sounding drums with these very airy, spacious synth sounds to create this nice kind of like in between. It's like not quite electronic music, but it's not quite acoustic music. It's like somewhere in between. And that's a really cool space to explore. I think there's a lot of cool stuff you can do there. Yeah, so if I were you, the weakest part about this song is definitely the drum beat. Like it sounds like a digital drummer, and I think that if you were to have a live drummer play almost the exact same drum beat, it would have a much more natural feel, and it would fit in with this track a lot better. So I think that would be the first major thing that would, I think, totally change how this track feels. Is just get rid of these drums and just get somebody playing drums. I think it'll make a huge difference here. Because the drums also just sound kind of dry too. So I think if you have somebody playing drums, that'll also make them sound a little bit more kind of alive. But the synth work is great. The synths sound awesome. I love the use of distortion at the end too. I honestly think that this doesn't really need to be too much longer. I think this could be this nice kind of like short and sweet kind of song. It has like this very emotional quality to it. What's up, Cortic? You can click on the link that is pinned up at the top of the chat and just then paste your link to your song in there, and I will listen to it. Yeah, like that use of distortion, fantastic. Yeah, I think you could take this as like a little break section, go back into one more drumming section with maybe like one extra synth on top of it, with like an extra melody to kind of round it out, and then go from there to the outro. I don't think this needs to be a super long track. I think 2 minutes and you're probably good to go. But yeah, that's the big thing. To me, the drums really stood out as just they just didn't mesh super well with the chords. And if you go back and listen to that track from Username from earlier, you'll find that he has these very live sounding drums, and they fit with the synthesizers really well, and they really kind of enhance it and really kind of make it work. But yeah, I like it a lot. Chat, you got any thoughts, questions, comments, ideas? Also, before I get to the next track, I also want to let you know that next week I will be out of town, going on like a pseudo honeymoon, and so no streams next week. However, there'll still be videos released on the normal schedule. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I would love to see this. Like, this is another one of those like songs that like I could totally see being synced up with a bunch of cool like retro video stuff. All right. I think next up we got a Cortic, because we've gotten through every other track so far. All right. Yeah, thanks for sharing, Cortic. Oh wait, is this Is this somebody else or is this Cortic? I clicked on the wrong link. Sorry about that. Cortic, I'll get to you next. Thanks for the super chat after party. I super appreciate it. Thanks, username. Nice. Phantom Taurus, well, welcome to the channel. It sounds really good. I like it a lot. It has a very kind of like chill, almost kind of like emancipator kind of vibe going on to it, which I like a lot. There's a few things I think you can probably work on a little bit to refine this if you want to go back and take another go at it. I think first off, overall your synths sound really good. Yeah, the whole intro is working. I feel like there's that main kind of melody part that has like a little bit of delay on it. You could maybe get a little bit more creative with the delays, or at least a little bit more, I don't know, adventurous with how you're using those delays. Right now it's like this really faint echo, but you could really play around with that and like really make it bounce around the space, and I don't think I'd mind that. This part sounds great. All right, and I think the first big issue here is your drums. I think you have this really kind of nice crunchy sounding snare that I think is actually really cool and has a lot of nice texture to it. But for me, it's really sticking out of the mix. So I think it's a little bit too loud. And I think that maybe layering it with a slightly different snare could help quite a bit. I think right now, just like it feels like everything else is so mellow and like, you know, you imagine like walking through the woods and listening to this track, and then you have this like really crunchy snare that I'm not sure kind of fits the vibe of what's going on here, even though I like the sound of the snare itself. And then I think the kick drum I think is okay. I think the kick could be a little bit louder, and I wouldn't mind that. Same thing with layering the kick. I'm big on drum layering. I think a lot of times people will start with these drums that sound okay, and then they're like, well, yeah, my drums sound better. It's like just layer them up with something else. And I think layering the kick here would be not a bad idea. A little bit more volume on the bass, and I wouldn't mind that. This section's great. That noise sweep there is a little bit generic. Also, layering noise sweeps could be really cool, or doing a filter sweep with the noise sweep, or figuring out ways to really kind of like do that transition and make it a little more interesting could be helpful. Because this part's super cool. All right, so I like that you added in these kind of like pretty quick hi-hats over here. But I wonder if you could maybe add in some percussion that sounds a little bit more organic. So maybe like some like shakers or something that's like not quite, like it sounds very electronic music. It doesn't sound like a drummer sitting there and playing a hi-hat like perfectly. So some like shakers, things that kind of like groove a little bit, I think could go really well as a nice way to kind of like, again, add to that organicness that like, which is what people like Emancipator are really good at. Other than that, this last final section, I wouldn't mind one more synth sound in the kind of higher frequency range, like an arpeggiated synth sound, like an arpeggiated pluck could be really cool and really pretty. Even if it's really kind of quiet and kind of tucked around in the background, I think that'd be really cool. But just like one more new synth layer that comes in this last kind of like last quarter of the track. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm hearing there. Those are like the main things that stick out to me. Like I said, you're kind of nailing the vibe here. It's like super chill, really nice and relaxed. I think the key thing that I listen for in tracks like this, when I hear this kind of stuff, is like, how can it be more organic? How can you make it feel more human? How can you like add in that element to the track? And if you can pull that off, then the rest of the track just kind of like falls into place. So, and it's hard to do when you're doing it, digitally inside a computer and everything is very not organic. So any way that you can do that, I think will pay off dividends and work out for you really well. Sweet. Well, thanks for sharing that. I appreciate it. And next up, now we got Cortex. Sorry, I clicked on the wrong link earlier. Cool. So I think this is the last track we got in the spreadsheet. So once again, if there's anybody here who has not shared a track and they would like to, we're running a little low on time, but we probably got time for one more after this one. So go ahead and pop that in there. And as always, if you are enjoying the stream, go ahead and hit the like button, subscribe if you're not, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So next up, we got Cortic. Yeah, Starbeast, I got time for one more after this. Nice. It sounds really solid, Cortic. Mix sounds really clean. All the bass sounds nice and huge. Everything sounds exactly where it should be in terms of the mix and how it all kind of fits together. It reminds me a lot of a track by James, Jayms, or Jams, I don't know how you're supposed to pronounce it, called On My Mind. There's a remix of that shares a lot of similarities to this, especially in this section. The bass line and even the synth parts are very, very similar. So if you don't know that track, I forget who remixes it, but remix of On My Mind by James, fairly similar in terms of like style choices. So yeah, I really like it. I think that number one, I know that it's pretty traditional for DJs in this style of music to have the very kind of like DJ friendly intro, where you just start with the beat. I think that gets a little boring, and if it were me, if this were my track, I might just start with the vocal. And just start with On My Vibe, and then boom, there we are. And just basically cut out the first 14 seconds of this track, just as a way to be like, hey, here we are, we're doing this thing. And that might be up to you. If you like it the way it is, go for it. But if it were up to me, I would start with that vocal sample, and then boom, right into the beat. Other than that, the siren I like a lot. However, you're using it a lot in this track. And I think you could dial back on the siren a little bit, and I would not mind that. Like, I think this section would sound almost as cool, or just as cool, without the siren. And that way you could save the siren for parts of the song where you want it to feel like really intense. So again, that's optional. That might be personal preference more than anything, but I would hold back on the siren a little bit in certain sections. Love this part. All right, and then we got the two kind of like drop sections here, which are both great. You're doing a really nice job of using lots of different kinds of sounds, and everything works together really well. I think my biggest piece of feedback here is that it sounds a little bit frenetic. It sounds like it's jumping around between different ideas a lot, and that can be okay. That can work. It works a lot in dubstep, works a lot in bass house as well. But I think you want to ride that line between chaos, but also being predictable. If it's too chaotic, people are not quite sure how to dance to it. And if it's too predictable, then it's boring, right? And I think right now you have a lot of sounds back to back to back. Like we just went through like 5 or 6 different sounds, and they're all cool and they all work. However, there wasn't enough of each one for it to create a pattern, right? Music's all about patterns, and dancing, even to dance music, is all about recognizing those patterns and then moving to them. So it sounds like, yeah, it just sounds a little too chaotic for me. And I like the use of all these sounds, but I would maybe spread them out a little bit, or create patterns with them where you have like one sound, next sound, next sound, next sound, and then you just repeat those a couple times. So again, it becomes this kind of like balancing act between chaos and predictability. But I think is the only real big issue with this track. But yeah, mix sounds really solid. It definitely sounds like you know what you're doing, and you got a good sense of kind of like what this genre is about and kind of how it all works together. But yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking here. Dial up the arrangement a little bit, like this little intro thing, tone down the siren a little bit, and then maybe just kind of tweak the sequencing of some of your sound design progression during the actual drops themselves. Other than that, I think it sounds really good. It definitely like it fits the vibe for this kind of like bass housey kind of thing. Yeah, it's working for me. But yeah, hopefully that is helpful, useful information for you. Chat, you got any other thoughts or comments? Let me know. All right, and then we got one last track for today, which is Mr. Starbeast. The link you sent did not work. Mr. Starbeast, give me try one more time. Yeah, no worries, Cortic. Like I said, it sounds really good. And if that's not music, like you have to have really, really clean mixes, otherwise the genre doesn't work at all. But yes, well, we're gonna wait for Starbase to update his track in the spreadsheet. But I appreciate all you guys coming in and sharing your tracks. This has been a really awesome stream as always for these song feedback streams. I'm just digging the tracks you guys are making. Everybody's making really cool stuff, and I love just the diversity of songs that we're getting here. I'll try this link one more time. And as I mentioned a little bit earlier, nope, that's the wrong track. I will be out next week, so no streams next week, but after that, we will be returning to normal stream time. Starbase, it is still not working. I'm sure we'll get it eventually. You shouldn't need to make it public. You should just be able to share the stream as a private track. All right, we'll try this one. There we go. Sweet. All right, let's check it out. Yeah, I love it. It's great. It's beautiful. It's amazing. Um, yeah, in terms of things you can do to work on this track, let me see where you're at with it. Unmixed, working on the arrangement a little bit. Um, yeah, I love the format you have now. Just kind of like intro, you got drop number one, drop number two right after, or kind of like drop A and B, and then the kind of like long build up to a thing, and then the outro. I've written songs with the style arrangement. I personally think if you want to keep it this way, I have no problems with that. If you wanted to, I probably would not mind after like a little bit of this section getting one more of these drops in there. I think that could work. I think it'd be fun and be a nice way to kind of round it out at the end. Don't feel compelled to do that if you don't want to, though. That's very much kind of like it could go either way, and I would be totally happy with it. In terms of other feedback and things you might want to watch out for, you got a lot of these really big kind of like reverby, these like reverby kind of background sounds. Those are going to be a pain to mix. So watch out for those. They're taking up a lot of space right now in the mix, which makes it a little harder to hear some of your other sounds. Keep them there because they're great. Just know that some of those kind of like reverby atmospheric layers might need to be either heavily sidechained or turned down pretty significantly once you kind of get into mixing it. I need more kick. I like what you got going with your kick, but I need like a nice punchy impact layer to go with it. This impact here isn't especially that very first one at the very start of that. I'm just not really feeling it the way I need to. So bigger kick, but especially on that very first one. I love your snare here. I've been complaining about a lot of people's snares today. The snare here is excellent, and it has this kind of like dragging motion right before it happens, which I also think works really well. Yeah, you've got like a little like reverse thing, and then you got your snare, and it's doing it. It's doing good. That little sound could be louder and more impactful, I think. That little bass sound there. That little bass, little blip right there. Yeah, I think the chat's a little bit behind what I'm saying, but love the snare. I think it works great. I actually kind of like the dragging reversed into the snare in terms of volume. It could go down a tiny bit in volume, but I like that it's adding a lot of texture, which is really nice in here without taking up too much space. Yeah, your kick is definitely missing out here. A lot of your grimy sounds in this section need to be louder. A lot of your kind of like more aggressive bassy sounds, I think, could go up in volume pretty significantly. And the hi-hats could go down in volume a little bit. And then from here on out, I have almost no feedback. I think it's awesome. So yeah, except for the same feedback on the kick. The kick has this very like echoey, hollow feel to it, which is great, but it needs something at the center of that kick. So I would layer that up with a nice punchy kick to go with it, but keep the one you have. Yeah, like I said, if you wanted to do a little bit of this section and then go back into a drop there, go for it. If you don't want to, don't do it. But yeah, style-wise, tons of style points on this. Really interesting unique use of it sounds kind of like a koto or something like that, shamisen maybe, or just a weird sounding guitar. But yeah, great use of synths, great use of atmosphere, really cool vibe, digging it quite a bit. Sweet. That I think is going to be it for today. We got through a lot of tracks, a lot of really good tracks. You guys have been picking it up with the quality of the tracks, which makes my life a lot harder to give you, critical feedback on tracks when you guys are just sending me awesome things. So I'm really stoked about it. I'm gonna start saying this at the end of these streams, so eventually I'll hold myself to it. But I definitely feel like at some point I would like to release a Catalyze compilation or something like that, where just people can submit tracks that they've done for the feedback streams or just tracks they're working on, and we'll pick the top 15 or 20 of them and just release them. I don't know how that's going to work or what that's going to look like, but it's something that I want to do in the future. And so I'll brainstorm that a little bit, but I think that'd be really fun. Yangquin. I'm definitely going to check that out because I like the sound of that a lot. All right, sweet. Well, that's going to be it for today. As I mentioned earlier, I will be out next week, so no streaming on Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday. But I will have a brand new, fresh video for you on Thursday, both tomorrow and next week. Cool. So thanks to everybody for showing up. You guys are awesome. The whole the community here really makes this whole thing actually work and be worthwhile. So thanks to you guys, and I will see you guys in a little over a week from Monday. Have a good one. Take care of yourselves. Make